Premium quality football shirts at an extremely affordable price. Sound good? If so, check out the sponsor of today's video, jerseyfifa.com. You can see that I've sent you some shirts and they really are top quality, so make sure to click the link in the description to go find a shirt for yourself or perhaps as a gift for someone else. And you can now use code jerseyfifa at checkout for 10% off your order. That's code jerseyfifa at checkout for 10% off your order. I really do recommend their product, so go take a look. Now let's get into the analysis. So if we take Haaland and Mbappe out of the equation, videos on those two coming soon, then Darwin Nunez is the real next big striker that everyone is talking about, as we head towards the transfer window that is of course coming up this summer. Manchester United fans in particular seem to be pretty excited about the prospect of signing him, whilst I also know that Arsenal fans like the look of him, but how much do people really know about him, and have people actually ever watched him? Well, to find out, I posted a poll about 8 weeks ago. A majority of people said that they wanted Nunez, but they hadn't necessarily really seen him play, which is fair enough because everyone has seen his goal tally that he's been producing this year. But having watched him a fair amount myself, I feel like it's my job to inform you guys, to let you know what he's really like as a player, so you can then come to a more informed decision about whether or not you want your club to sign him. So Darwin Nunez is 22-year-old striker from Uruguay. He stands at about 6'1" tall and currently applies his trade at club level with Benfica. And let's not mess about here, Darwin Nunez has developed into a goal machine. As I said there, Darwin Nunez is an out-and-out goal scorer. There isn't really another way of putting it. This season he has scored a simply ridiculous amount of goals from situations that would barely even be classed as a chance for other players. Obviously this might sound a little bit standard for a striker because ultimately it is their job to put the ball in the back of the net. But let's just say that Nunez does this job a lot better than what most other people do, especially this season. As we would expect, this is backed up when we look at his numbers in the league. With the chances he has had this year, he would have been expected to score 15 goals. Nunez has managed 26. Let that sink in for a second, it's extraordinary. Nunez's form this year has also been shown in the Champions League as well, against some real top defenders and goalkeepers. But yet again he is close to doubling his expected goals. Everything he has touched has turned to goals. Obviously, with that in mind, Nunez is at his best when he's in the opposition's box, and his movement is good to get himself in front of a defender before finishing emphatically past the keeper, although he perhaps isn't as good with his headering. Despite not being great at heading, his timing of run into the box is usually brilliant, and as I said, it allows him to get the ball before the defender does, and in the box he just seems to be one step ahead of the centre backs that he is up against. Despite scoring so many goals in and around the box, Nunez actually prefers to drift into wider areas, and he actually spends a lot of his time moving out wide, either to the right wing or more commonly over on the left hand side of the pitch. For this reason, Nunez is actually at his best when his team is looking to play in transitions, as this allows Nunez to drift out wide to get the ball in a lot of space, before then looking to progress the ball forwards in these wider areas. In these areas he's certainly helped by his natural size and strength. There's nothing particularly subtle about his dribbling technique, but he is still often extremely effective, as he is able to power his way past much smaller fullbacks. Again, for this reason Nunez is at his best when he is able to operate in space, and it's for this reason that he likes to gravitate into these wider areas, because it then allows him to move into open ground using his brilliant athleticism. Like I keep saying, in these situations he is super effective, and it's his power which really impresses me the most, allowing him to barge defenders out of the way, almost like Romelu Lukaku used to do when he started slightly wider for Belgium. For this reason, I truly believe that Nunez would be an incredible signing for any team that wants to play in transition with quick counter-attacking football, because he has all the tools and skills to play in this sort of way. He truly is an athlete. This allows him to really carry a team on his shoulders. If your team is under the cosh a little bit, then Nunez is the perfect striker to get the ball out wide and really carry the team forward on the break, but every player has weaknesses. I can't help but think that he might struggle in a more possession orientated team, and it's of course these sorts of clubs that he is being linked with. Does he have the technical ability on the ball that is needed to play in these sorts of teams? Considering he is so good in other areas, you might expect him to be technically as well, but if I'm being blunt and honest, that's not really the case, and I'll have a stat later on in the video which is really surprising, so stay tuned for that. But just to sort of summarise, he's not very good from a technical point of view. He's not really a player that wants to get the ball into his feet and find a teammate with a pass, and he certainly is not a striker that is going to be creating chances for others. Surprisingly, he's not very good at holding the ball up either, and this is a bit of a shock because of his physical attributes, but he currently just seems to lack the control and technical subtlety that is needed to keep the ball away from opposition defenders. Obviously, for that reason, he's not really a striker that you can play the ball long to in the hope that it'll then bring others into the game. He simply isn't that sort of player, and currently he doesn't have the skills to play this sort of role for any team. However, despite all the negatives that I've just listed, he is still absolutely lethal in and around the opposition's box, as we were talking about earlier, and this is why I'm so conflicted about him. There's a lot he can't do, but he does score goals. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing on a football pitch, to put the ball in the back of the net more than the opposition do. And ultimately, Nunez tends to do that, and he can find a goal from pretty much any situation on a football pitch. It's really hard to put a price tag on that. Right now in Europe, there really aren't very many top strikers that will guarantee a hatful of goals almost every single season, but Nunez is one of the few who looks like he can do that. On top of his goal scoring ability, he is also quite a tenacious player as well. And when he combines this with his incredible physicality, then it makes for an impressive combination, making him a real terror for defenders to try and deal with. Nunez is also a player that is aware of his defensive duties as well, and he is happy to help his team press high up the pitch. He isn't exactly Roberto Firmino level when it comes to pressing, but he certainly understands that he has to help his side. This is obviously a positive for any club looking at him. Most top teams want the side to work hard off the ball, and under the right coach I certainly think that Nunez can do that and be a good defensive contributor for his team off the ball. Ultimately, I think the way that I would describe Nunez is that he is a brilliant goal scorer, but he is a raw talent. His ability is quite clear, but there are sides of his game that are behind other strikers at his age, and that would be a concern. Regardless, I do think that this will be a big transfer window for him. I'm sure we'll be hearing his name all summer before he either joins a new club or commits his future to Benfica, but either way, be ready to hear his name a lot. Obviously, with this in mind, I do think that we will continue to see a lot of reports linking him with a move to the Premier League, but if this was to happen, then I think he would need a lot of time to adapt, with less space being available to him to operate in. From a tactical point of view, I do think that someone like West Ham are a club that would suit Nunez the most, and he would be an excellent upgrade up front because they are one of the best counter-attacking teams that English football currently has to offer. Unfortunately, I don't think that move is very likely, simply because it does look like Benfica are going to be demanding a massive transfer fee, and no offence to West Ham, but I just don't think that they have the financial capabilities to make this happen. So I guess the question is, would he work in Arteta or Erik ten Hag's systems? Because ultimately they are the big Premier League clubs that need a new striker this summer, and I'm sure Nunez will have them in mind at the moment. To be fair, whilst his numbers may not be particularly great, I do think that Nunez would be happy to do the defensive work that Arteta or Ten Hag would ask of him, and this would be an important factor in any sort of transfer to a top club. Of course, the biggest factor would be Nunez's goal scoring ability. Arsenal in particular would benefit from a player that really excels at putting the ball in the back of the net, because the side doesn't really have that at this moment in time. However, there is still one big sticking point, and I just can't get past the fact that he is so technically flawed as a player. And to put it simply, I just don't think that he is complete enough yet to play for one of Europe's top sides. The main concern for me is his passing. Don't get me wrong, a striker doesn't have to be incredible at passing, but they do need to be able to do the basics, and I just don't think that Nunez can do that at the moment. Let's find that stat up real quick. Here it is, focus on his pass completion. On average, Darwin Nunez attempts 18.4 passes per game and completes just 54% of them, ranking him in the bottom percentile in European football. Don't get me wrong, this is something that a coach could help him with, but right now he looks so far away from the top strikers in European football, especially someone like Harry Kane when we consider his passing range. Nunez isn't even close. With that in mind, I personally think that signing Darwin Nunez would be a massive gamble for anyone that makes the move in the summer, especially a team like Arsenal or Manchester United who need quality right from the start. It's made even more of a gamble when you read the reports that any sort of transfer is going to cost more than £65 million this summer. It's an insane amount of money for a player who has so much areas of his game that need improvement. But at the end of the day, the prospect of a top goal scorer is just so tempting for these clubs, and to be fair, I do think that Nunez will score goals next season, no matter where he plays, because he has been a world-class finisher this year. The question is whether or not he can evolve to the next level. Over the past 6 years he has gradually been evolving, and this year in particular he has been absolutely brilliant, but does he have what it takes to kick on to another level once again? If he does, then there's no reason why he can't become a player that challenges for the Ballon d'Or, because as I keep saying, goals talk, and he has the potential to be a truly elite number 9 and be one of the best in this current generation of footballers. But personally I find it hard to look past those passing numbers. Nunez's control and passing certainly needs a lot of work if he wants to become a more complete player. so I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops over the next 18 months or so, and I hope for his sake that he is able to grow as a player, but we'll just have to wait and see. But in the meantime, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you want your club to sign Darwin Nunez, and does he have what it takes to really take that next step in his career to go to the next level? Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.